Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, and I am super excited. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are rejoicing and we're glad in it. For those of you that are coming on, please do your boy a favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and tag Lolly Dolly everybody and let them know your boy, Prophet Ramonepreston, the squad. We are live right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta, and today is Friday. Good afternoon, all of my extended family members and friends. For those of you that are coming on, my hope and expectation is that you have had an extraordinarily amazing week. If for some reason you haven't, we're going to make sure we change that today on the show. Here's what I need you to do. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube page. Your subscriptions, when you hit that subscribe button, your subscription helps us help more people. We're on a mission to touch as many people as we can. We're on a mission to inspire, to educate, to impact billions of people on this planet with information and training that we know can change the trajectory of their lives and their legacies. All right, so here's what I need you to do. While you're hitting that like button, while you're sharing, while you are subscribing to my YouTube page and hitting the follow button on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform or LinkedIn that you're watching me on, please put in the comments. Could you put in the comments right now what city you're watching your boy from? Where you watching me from? I would love to know what city you're watching me from. And I really appreciate all of you that continue to watch the Ramonepreston Show. Those of you that continue to support the movement. It's really a movement. A lot of people listen to me or they find me on social media, they watch a few videos in passing, but a lot of people don't understand that what we are doing here through this show, through platforms, through our entire organization is a movement. It is a mission. It's a mandate that God has given to me to heighten the awareness of His people on the importance of biblical wealth, biblical economics. I just don't have a spiritual mission as a minister, as a preacher, as a prophet, as an apostle. My mission is not just spiritual. My mission is social economic, because I want to make a social impact. I want to help my community. I want my people, my tribe, to see that there is a way that you can establish a legacy of success. And that's why we do what we do. So thank you so much for joining the Ramonepreston Show. If you don't know, now you know. My name is Ramonepreston. I'm the host of the Ramonepreston Show. And every Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time, I show up here literally in the middle of a business workday. I show up here. I leave my office, I leave whatever meetings we're having in our conference room, I leave my team on the other side of our suite, and I come in here to join you every Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock noon to share information with you, vital information, valuable information. One of the greatest compliments I get on a day-to-day basis from people who I know, people who I don't know, from people who are not clients but are just looking for information, and people who are clients. One of the greatest compliments I get is that we are sharing valuable information with our community. So if you are getting value from the videos that you watch, if you get value from the show, if you get value from the questions that I answer, if you get value from the content that we give away for free on all these social media platforms, all I ask, number one, is for you to subscribe to my YouTube page, for you to like and share our videos, for you to invite others to join us, because we are showing our community that you can bring faith and finances together. You can bring ministry and marketplace together. According to Scripture, we're told that we're kings and priests unto God. So we don't have to choose between ministry or marketplace, between church and business, between faith and finances. No, we can have the best of all worlds. And God has been using me, especially for the past 4 years, to bring these two worlds together. And that has played a major role in what we're doing on this show. So with that being said, enough of my spiel. I want to get into what I'm talking to you about today on the show. Which, by the way, if you've missed all of our shows this week, you've missed a treat, because I've been talking about how to become recession proof. And today I want to talk to you about how to pivot in the recession. So here's the critical question I've been asking all week. Are you recession proof? Do you know if you're recession proof? Because based on experts, based on what the media is saying, based on what world economists are saying, we're in a recession. We're in a bear market. So these are cyclical, meaning that, every cycles, every so many years, we see what we see happening, even though it may be a little rougher with inflation, with gas prices, with supply chain issues. We just saw that the average car payment has bumped up from maybe $500 a month to $700 a month. Housing prices are up, rent is going through the roof. So we see all of these areas of life, all these industries, all these markets where this thing called inflation and this thing called a recession is actually taking a toll. But more importantly, are you recession proof? So if you can't control gas prices, if you can't control supply chain issues, if you can't control rent rates, if you can't control the amount of interest that banks are charging to get a car loan, if you're not in control of those things, but you are in control of your own life and your own finances and your own business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're not in control of those other things, are you in control of your own things enough to be recession proof? Meaning that, are you in a position that these things are not bothering you? So for example, when you go to the pump and you start pumping gas in your car and you see 13, 14, 15 gallons and $80, $90 and you hadn't even filled it up yet, are you uncomfortable with that? Is that really affecting how you move this week, how you take care of your family this week? If in fact those things are negatively affecting you, then maybe we need to work on becoming recession proof. So when you get the notice from the landlord and the landlord says we're bumping your rent up $200 or $300 or 12%, and you just got in there or you've been there and they go up again on you when you just renewed your lease, is that like debilitating you financially? Is that throwing you into panic mode or emergency mode? If these things are affecting you negatively, like emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically, and financially, it only means we just need to help you work on becoming recession proof, okay? So if you're not recession proof, I've been talking about this all week. I'm gonna keep talking about it, because for the last 4 years, I've been really trying to prepare my community to become recession proof. Like literally, people who've been around me for the last 4 years, they will all tell you, I've been talking about this for the last 4 years. Now, when I first started talking about all of the things that I talk about today, 4 years ago, I was just coming out of a season where I was like in debt. I didn't have a whole lot of money. I didn't have a whole lot of resources. My wife and I was making decent money. When I say decent money, I'm talking about 6 figures, but we wasn't keeping a lot of it. We didn't really have a lot of free cash flow. We wasn't recession proof 4 years ago, even though we were better off than we were in 2008. But think about it, from 2008 to 2018, my wife and I, our lives got much better. The quality of our life got much better. We saw how that lifestyle changed everything that we did, but we were still not recession proof. Definitely light years away from where we are right now. So what are the things that changed? Like, what changed in the last 4 years? Even though I'm saying 4 years, but remember, it took years for me and my wife to learn the things that we know, for us to implement those things, for us to develop the right practices to make sure that these things work. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how you can pivot in this recession, but I wanna really refresh your memory on some of the things I talked about this week on how to become recession proof, okay? So if you didn't watch the show this past week, go back, watch those archive videos on what I said you need to do to become recession proof, okay? You need to change your mindset about money, about people, and about business. You need to change your skill set. That means you got to educate. You can't be this lazy-minded person thinking, oh, I don't read books and I don't study and I ain't finna be watching videos of Ramonepreston every day, and I've already learned that about financial literacy and I know about business. Well, if you knew all these things, you would be recession proof. If you don't know these things, it's going to show up in your bank account. I always tell people that where you are financially shows you what your relationship with money is. And that's a real gut check you got to give yourself. If I look at my financial situation situation is telling me where I am with money. My financial situation is telling me what type of relationship I have with money. And I want to feel that. I want that to check me, and I want to do something about it. So to become recession proof, as I mentioned all this week, you got to change your mindset about money, people, and business. Change your skill set about money, people, and business. You got to become the front door. You got to be willing to do what I'm doing right now. You got to be willing. And if you're just that introvert and you already, like, you got this in your mind that, you know, I'm not just a people's person. I'm not a video person. I'm just not a person who talk a lot. I just want to be behind the scenes. Listen, if being behind the scenes means I'm going to stay broke and stay struggling, I'm getting from behind the scenes. I got to be the front door. I don't want to be the basement or the attic or the closet to the marketplace if it's not making me money and putting me and my family in a position of stability. If I got to be the front door and people got to keep knocking on me and hating on me and laughing at me and talking about me and picking on me, but I'm steady succeeding, I don't mind being the front door. That's one of the requirements of becoming recession proof. Number 4, you also got to become the creative force. That means you got to be the go-to person. People should be coming to you asking you questions about stuff that ain't even related to what you do. Like, I get people all the time reaching out to me, asking me questions about stuff that ain't even related to the products and services or programs that I sell. But guess what? I can direct them to the right people. I can give them my perspective on it. I can share with them things that they need to take into consideration so that they don't become victims or statistics of somebody else's, finesse. But I have to be the creative force. And number 5, in order to become recession proof, you got to be a blessing. You got to make a decision. I want to be a blessing to people. Like, I always tell people, like, I partner with people. I support people's businesses. And a lot of times I'm partnering with them, or I might support their business and might not even need them. I might not even need what they business got, but because they're believers, because they're in the faith community, they're my brothers and sisters, they're a part of my tribe, I want them to win because I know their family gonna win, their kids and their spouses gonna win. I'll just support them just on the mere fact that, you know what, I'm supporting another believer. I'm supporting another community member. Other communities do it. Other communities always do it. When you look on social media today, look at the types of people that get together. Birds of a feather flock together. So you got these woke folks, all the groups of the woke folk, they get together. You got the LGBT, whatever it is, community, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't know what it is, A, B, C, G, L, B, G, T. That community, they get together. You got certain racial groups that get together. You get certain cultural groups that get together. You got subculture groups that come together. Everybody got their own little groups and their own little tribes that they get into alignment with. Well, guess what? I'm going to represent a group of people who love God. They love God's people. They believe in God. They got faith, but they want to get their finances right. They want to serve God. They want to be a blessing to people, but they also want to get that bag. They want to be rich too. They want to be wealthy too. Why we can't have our own? Well, I'm not asking the question. I got my own community. I got my own group. I'm not waiting for people to create it for me. I'm not waiting for people to show me what the narrative should be. I am the narrative. And I'm saying this to all of you, even at the onset of today's show, because we're in a recession and we're still kind of like in a pandemic. Right? Like we're in uncertain times. There's a lot of uncertainty. People are losing their jobs. People are losing their livelihoods. They're losing the things that they have that give them the stability they need. And we can't just sit on the sidelines and think it ain't gonna knock on our door. We can't just think it ain't gonna happen to us. But in order for us to change it, we gotta be willing to do the things that people like me are telling our community we need to do. All right. So just today, we were talking about, me and my team, we were talking about how it was a big announcement that Revlon filed for bankruptcy. Did you hear about that? Revlon filed for bankruptcy. Revlon. So this was a company that was started in the 1930s. Revlon, you know, the makeup line. Okay. But they've been struggling. It's just that now, because of the way the market is, they can't carry the weight of that struggle any longer. So they decided, okay, or maybe someone decided it for them, maybe a private equity group that they owe decided for them that, hey, Revlon, it's time to file the big B. It's time for you to go under the umbrella of the big B, because you got too much dodo on the line. And guess what Revlon did? They filed for bankruptcy. Now, one of the reasons why I'm talking to my team about it and I'm talking to my community about it, because it's just a bigger picture sign of what most people, everyday people in the world, are going through. One of the biggest reasons why Revlon had to file bankruptcy. Just one. It's many reasons, but one of the big reasons is because Revlon has almost $4 billion of debt. So I'm not against debt, because debt can be used as leverage. What I am against is what Revlon and what many people do. They were over leveraged in debt to the point that they were paying more in interest payments than they had income coming in. Does that make sense to you? They were paying more in interest payments than they had income coming in. So this is how it looks in an everyday person's life. You make a certain amount of money every month. So you have a certain amount of money coming in. But as soon as you get the money coming in, guess what happens? The money goes out, because your expenses exceed your income. Your expenses exceed your income. Now, of course, it may be more complicated for a company like Revlon because it's a multi-billion-dollar operation. However, the principles are still the same. You cannot spend more than you make. You cannot spend more money than you're making. And guess what? It's not just the expense problem that you have, it's actually an income problem. And that's a little bit of what I want to talk about today. How can you pivot in this recession? Well, first of all, if you don't have enough money coming in, if you don't have enough stability in your personal life, in your business, and in your finances, you have to do something different. So pivoting. Okay? This is the key word today, pivoting. Pivoting is about learning new ways to do new things. That's what pivoting is about. So if you're of the mindset that we are actually in a recession, and we're still kind of like in the pandemic, which compounds the stress and the strain and the pressure and the lack of resources, then you should also be of the mindset and the belief that you got to do things different if you're going to get different results. You got to do things different if you're going to get different results. So how does pivoting help you become recession proof? Well, pivoting helps you become recession proof because you refuse to stay stuck doing the same thing when the world around you is not the same. Like the way the world was prior to March of 2020, the way the world was here, okay, the way the world was here before March of 2020 is not the way the world is today after March 2020. So we're literally 2 years and something away from when we were quarantined and the world took a turn for the worse. We're 2 years and a few months away from that, right? Now we're in a world where you've got to do things different. You're being forced to do things different. So if you're working the same job or the same kind of job that you worked before March 2020, if you making the same amount of money or similar amount than you made before March 2020, if you got the same kind of business, doing the same business the same way today as you did before March 2020, because this is June 2022, whatever it is that you're doing here today should be totally different than what you were doing here before March of 2022. And if you can look at your financial life, if you can look at your professional life, if you can look at your business life, if you can look at your ministry life, your family life, every area of your life, and any area of your life, if it's almost virtually the same today as it was prior to March 2020, that means you have not pivoted. And if you haven't pivoted, that means you're going back, because you're not at the same place. You're going back. You're either going backwards or you're either going forwards. Okay? So what are some of the things that you need to do in order to pivot in this recession? Well, first of all, here's what you need to do. I'm going to give you a couple things, okay? First thing you need to do is you need to change your principles. Your principles, there has to be a pivot in your principles. Now, don't just take that word and use it as some hypothetical word. Okay, don't just think, oh, he's talking about principles. What do you mean I need to pivot in my principles? Here's what I mean when I say this is how you pivot in this recession: by switching up your principles, by shifting your principles, by changing, by making a turn. What I'm talking about when I say principles are consistent truths. Okay, so a principle by definition is a consistent truth. Does that make sense to you? A principle is a consistent truth. So there are certain principles about money that you need to live by. There are certain principles about money that you need to live by. Let me give an example of what I mean so you can see how principles are consistent truths. So here's one principle. You should always live on less than what you make. Okay? You should always live on less than what you make. That's a principle. That's a consistent truth. As long as I can figure out ways to live on less money than I bring in, or to have more money come in than I have going out, as long as I can figure out a way to make that a principle or a consistent truth in my finances, I'm always going to be recession proof. Point blank, period. If Revlon was bringing more income in that exceeded their interest payments and their expenses, Revlon would not be bankrupt. unless a private equity group or some big group just wants to get their money out the deal and force them into bankruptcy. But just generally speaking, if you got more money coming in than you got going out, let me say it again. If you got more money coming in than you got going out, let me say it again. If you got more money coming in than you got going out, you are going to always be in a position to remain recession proof, because you're living by a principle or a consistent truth that always guarantees you stay on top. Does that make sense? The moment you violate that principle, the moment you abort that consistent truth, is the moment you become vulnerable and compromise the integrity of being recession proof. So this is why the first pivot that has to take place in order for you to be recession proof is the pivot in your principles. Now, another pivot that has to take place is in your position. But most people they never pivot in their position because they never pivot in their principles. And again, when I'm talking about principles, I'm talking about the principles of money, the principles of sales, the principles of marketing, principles of business, just the basic business principles. These are all principles that help you develop consistent truths that no matter what comes or what goes, no matter what season or market you're in, whether it's a bear market or a bull market, whether it's a up season or a down season, whether it's a crash or whether it's a win with a crush, it doesn't matter. You're going to be consistent because you have certain truths or principles that you operate by when it comes to money, when it comes to sales, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to business. Why do you think, for the most part, with the exception of me just having meetings that run over or being out of town that I can't do it, why do you think I host the show Monday through Friday? Why do you think I post on social media every day? Why do you think I have a training platform that people can access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, anywhere in the world, as long as they got internet access? Why do you think I host coaching calls every week? Why do you think my team and I, we communicate via email, text messages, videos, phone calls every day with anybody in our community? You know why? Because we operate our business and our lives off principles, consistent truths. So even when we're not motivated, we're consistent. Even when we don't see certain things happen, we're still consistent. Even when the market is inconsistent and people we serve and reach are inconsistent, we are consistent because we are, watch this, we are principled people. Did you catch that? We are principled people. And if you're watching me today, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you have to make the decision to become principled as an entrepreneur. This cannot be a hobby. This cannot be a third or fourth option to you. This cannot be something you just do on your days off or when you get off work. This is why you're not succeeding, because this cannot be a side hobby, not even a side hustle. That only works for so long. It needs to become a way of life through consistent truths. So in order to pivot in this recession so that you can always remain recession proof, number one, you need to pivot in your principles. When it comes to money, you need to pivot in your principles. You need new principles. Like if you're living off the same information about money today that you lived off even 2 years ago, that's why you're not winning. You can't live off those same principles. Companies that are still using the same principles today that they used in 2020 are losing for the most part. People, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and the smaller your business is, the more severe the damage is. And the more energy and effort and time and money and resources you're going to have to put into learning the right principles that become consistent truths for your money, for your sales. You got to be consistent in sales. I don't care what I'm selling, but I got to sell something. I got to sell something. Let me make it easier for you, because some people are like all tied up in this sale. Oh, you're always trying to sell. You're always trying to sell. Well, let me give you another word that's synonymous to sales, if it makes you feel better. You got to generate revenue. 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 I talk to people who are in nonprofit space. They have nonprofit organizations. They got community service organizations. They got CDCs, community development corporations. They got churches, and they get like the heebie-jeebies when you say you have to generate revenue. And they're like, oh my God, like we ain't into sales. We ain't into all the money and the revenue. And I'm thinking, how you gonna pay to do what you need to do in your nonprofit? It's going to require revenue, but you got to be principled. In your marketing, you got to be principled. In your business as a whole, you got to be principled, meaning that there needs to be consistent truths that you can live by. So no matter what market you're in, you have certain truths that you live by that transcend recessions, that transcend down markets. And if you don't have them, it's because you haven't put yourself around the right people. So that's the first pivot, in your principles. The second pivot is in your position. In your position. What do you mean in your position? Whew, this is a heavy conversation here, because I mean a lot of things. The first thing I mean is, if you are an entrepreneur, okay, if you're a business owner, let me just put these over here so I can have more space to talk. All right, we're going to put these over here. Principles, right? We got position. And then we got our practices. That's the third pivot. Okay, so let me just put that there so I can move it, because I got other things I want to talk to you about real quickly, okay? So let's just say that you are making the decision today that, you know what, Ramon, I'm going to be principled. I want to learn more principles about money. I want to learn more principles about sales. I want to learn more principles about marketing. I want to learn more principles about business. Let's just assume you agree with what I'm saying and you're like, I'm all in. I'm listening to you. I'm going to stop brushing you off. I'm going to take your advice. Okay. The second thing I need you to do is pivot in your position. So what do I mean by pivoting your position? Here's what I mean. If you are a business owner and you have a certain product that you sell, or products, or you have a certain service that you provide, or you have certain programs that you give to the community through certain platforms, whatever it is that you sell, whatever it is that you do in your business, in your side hustle, as a network marketer, whatever it is, from a business perspective, that would be considered an operating entity, right? That would be considered an operating entity. So whether you are a real estate salesperson, an insurance agent, whether you are a broker, whether you're a digital marketer, whether you clean houses and apartments, whether you landscape, whatever it is, your business is, by description, considered an operating entity. So that means you are positioned in this business and in the marketplace based on the operation of your entity. Am I correct? So if my operating entity, if my business is a landscaping business, right? That means I am positioned in my landscaping business, of course, as the CEO maybe, but I'm also positioned as the landscape guy. If my business is a plumbing business, yes, I'm the CEO, but I'm also positioned as the plumbing guy. If my business is a marketing business, I'm the marketing guy. So whatever the business entity is, that operation defines you. And this is the wrong approach for a lot of people, because your position needs to pivot. This is one of the reasons why I teach about the holding company, because when you have a holding company, now what happens is your holding company owns this operating entity, and even though you still have to run it, let's say if you are a solo CEO, but just because you've repositioned your organizational chart or your structure, now you can reposition yourself, because your holding company becomes the asset manager, not an operating entity. And in order for you to manage the holding company, you actually have to become something or be positioned in some capacity greater than just the landscape guy, the marketing guy, the plumber, the car detailer. This is so critical. A lot of people don't understand this. Now, let's say, for example, if you are positioned within your holding company, which is the asset manager of your operating entity, you can become an expert in this thing that your business does, but you don't have to be positioned in the market as the person who does it. You can be the expert to give information on that type of business or that industry. I'm telling you, this is one of the biggest pivots people can make in this recession, because that pivot is in your position. And number 3, you need to pivot in your practices. You need to pivot in your practices. What do you mean, my practices? You need to pivot in the day-to-day activities. The day-to-day activities that you engage in when it comes to this type of structure. So you have an operating business, you have a holding company. And this applies to all of you who are real estate agents, you are freelancers, you're independent contractors, you're network marketers. You should still build your businesses like this, because it's going to give you greater advantages. I can't talk about all the advantages right now, but I'm telling you, that is a big mistake a lot of network marketers, independent contractors, freelancers, and even operating business owners make when they don't understand this type of structure. Number 3, you need to pivot in your practices. How do you pivot in your practices? Well, here is how you pivot in your practices. You've got to figure out what are the things that are revenue generating activities, as opposed to non-revenue generating activities. There is a difference. So there are a lot of business owners who wake up every day. There are a lot of business owners who wake up every day. There are a lot of people who wake up every day, and most of their activities are non-revenue generating activities. Most of their activities. Like, I have a staff of people, okay? We have a staff. We have a real team here, okay? And guess what? Every person that works for Ramonepreston Enterprises, they have certain roles, certain responsibilities, they have a certain routine, they have a certain reach that they have to hit, and they have a certain result that they have to get. We use our 5 R's, right? But just to simplify it, everybody in my company has a certain job description. But within that job description, they also have things that they have to do that are also revenue generating activities. So you can't just work for me and everything you do for me is non-revenue generating activities. I mean, I appreciate it and I know it's essential. I know it's important, but if we can find some wiggle room in your non-revenue generating activities, some of that wiggle room, guess what we want to interject and add? Revenue generating activities. Because if everybody, even if it's just incrementally, if everybody ascribes to practicing revenue generating activities, guess what we're going to see more of? Ding, 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 ding. Duh. As simple as that. I'm giving you the game. And here's what's really amazing about all this free game I'm giving you. I have an entire online training program called the Millionaire Blueprint that has hundreds upon hundreds of courses to train you on all of these things that I'm talking to you about. I have several layers of training and coaching and consulting that I provide to help any person become financially and professionally successful. And if that's something that you're looking at doing, if you know you need to learn new principles for money, for sales, for marketing, for business, if you know you need to be repositioned in your business, maybe you need a holding company, maybe you have a LLC, but you don't know how to restructure your LLC and your holding company, or you don't know how to reposition yourself in your company to become the expert so that you're not just the person who does the job that you do. If you have issues with your day-to-day practices because you don't know how to distinguish or differentiate what are revenue generating activities and what are non-revenue generating activities, and how you can actually get more revenue generating activities. If you don't have any of this information, any of the tools and the resources and the strategies to implement what I'm sharing with you today, all you have to do is reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to give you access to our program that provides all of this information for you. And whatever tier or level of participation you want access to our program on, we'll give you that. We have our online training program. You can access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while you're driving, while you're taking a break. You can pull out your phone, your laptop, your tablet, and you can start learning these principles, learning how to reposition yourself in your business, and putting those things to practice. Maybe you want one-on-one coaching. Maybe you want to be a part of our mentorship program for access to our weekly coaching calls and our monthly workshops and our quarterly masterminds. Maybe you want to be certified. Maybe you want to be a business consultant, or maybe you want to learn how to coach people and consult people. Perhaps you want all of the above, and you want me and my team to work with you to help build your organization out, to help build out your systems and build out your processes. I've got programs from A to Z to help you with that. All you have to do today is text the magic word. Do you know what the magic word of the day is? Do you know what the magic word of the day is? And this is the magic word of every day for me. The magic word is milli, a milli, a milli, a milli, a milli. I want you to text the word millionaire to 404 478 7213. I want you to text that word to me right now so I can take a few minutes to speak with you, so we can identify with what are the principles do you need. Are there money principles that you need access to? Are there sales principles, marketing principles, financial system principles, operational principles? Maybe you need principles for your holding company or your LLC. Whatever the principles are that you need, I want to give you access to those principles. I want to show you how to reposition yourself. I want to show you how to put them to practice so that you can pivot in this recession and ultimately become recession proof. Is that a deal? All you have to do is text millionaire to 404 478 7213. I want you to become one of the next blueprint millionaires. Like, we've got quite a few people that are in our programs right now who can very well cross that threshold, that milestone, that finish line to become net worth millionaires, as long as they remain consistent with the principles that they're given, as long as they remain true to the position that we've put them in, as long as they practice them on a day-to-day basis. It's inevitable. It's not optional. It's inevitable. There was a time in my life where I didn't think I would ever become financially free. There was a time in my life where I couldn't see the financial or business light at the end of the tunnel until I got the right principles, until I positioned myself properly, and until I made a commitment to put them to practice on a day-to-day basis. And that's why I'm where I am right now today. I want you to be right here, at least when it comes to being recession-proof, financially free, and successful in your personal, your professional, and even your financial life. So text the word millionaire to 404-478, right there, 7213. Give me a few minutes to speak with you so we can direct you to what programs you need access to. We'll get you access to them, onboard you, get you set up so that you can move to your next level. Hey, I love all of you. Appreciate all of you. Have an amazing weekend. I look forward to seeing you Monday right back here on the Ramon